Snow drifts softly against the narrow alley behind the restaurant, and Hannah feels the cold creeping into her bones as she looks at the unconscious man lying on the ground, and she wonders how long he has been out here in the freezing air, and what kind of life he comes from that would leave him to freeze alone in the dark. And despite her fear, she cannot ignore the quiet desperation in the way his body shakes, so she pulls him inside, using all her strength while listening for any sound that might hint at danger approaching. Yet the street remains silent in a way that makes her nerves tighten, as if the night itself is holding its breath. She drags him across the kitchen floor, his weight heavier than she expected, and she questions why she is helping a stranger who may bring trouble, yet something in the way his hand clutches at the edge of her coat, even in his weakened state, makes her believe he is fighting to stay alive for a reason she cannot yet understand, and she lights a small heater to warm the storage room, where she lays him on a thin blanket, hoping the heat will reach him before the cold takes over completely, though the way his lips are turning pale tells her she is racing against time, while a strange dread settles in her chest, hinting that the night will not be as quiet as it seems. Hannah moves quickly, gathering water and towels, and she presses the warm cloth against his skin, feeling the tremor that runs through him as if he is trapped in some nightmare, his mind refusing to release him. And she hears him speak a name, soft and broken, a name she has never heard before, and the way he says it makes her think it is someone he cared for deeply, someone he lost or betrayed or failed, and she leans closer to catch more of his murmured words, but they fade into a hollow whisper that sends a shiver through her, because although she cannot understand him, she senses he carries a story far more dangerous than she is prepared for, leaving her uncertain of what she has allowed into her quiet life. As she checks his injuries, she discovers deep bruises along his ribs and marks on his arms that look like the aftermath of a violent struggle, the kind that does not come from random misfortune but from people who do not forgive easily. And the thought that he might be involved with dangerous forces makes her cheeks grow hot with fear, yet she cannot bring herself to abandon him now, not after seeing the pain that shadows his face, and she wonders what kind of enemy he has made, and whether they are already searching for him in the darkness beyond her restaurant door, where the snow covers the ground like a thin layer of secrecy that could be broken at any moment. Hours pass slowly as the heater warms the small room, and Hannah fights exhaustion while watching over him, and every time the floorboards creak or the wind presses against the windows, she imagines footsteps and voices outside, men coming to reclaim the wounded stranger and punish anyone who helped him. And she tells herself this fear is irrational, that no one knows he is here, but she cannot shake the feeling that she is being pulled into something she should have walked away from when she first saw him in the snow. Yet something deeper than fear keeps her present, something that whispers that fate placed him in her path for a reason she is not yet meant to understand. The stranger stirs again, his breathing uneven, and his eyes flutter open for a moment, revealing a darkness that seems to hold both sorrow and warning, as though he sees something behind her, something she cannot. And when he tries to speak, his voice cracks painfully, but his hand reaches out weakly, as if urging her to stay close, and she grips his fingers, trying to reassure him, though she knows nothing she says will reach him in the haze that clouds his mind. And she feels a strange responsibility settling over her, a sense that she must protect him, even though she does not know him, and even though doing so could lead her into peril she never imagined. When dawn begins to break, the sky shifts from black to a pale gray that seeps into the restaurant, and Hannah steps outside to breathe the cold morning air, hoping it will clear her mind. Yet she notices new footprints in the snow near the alley, prints too large to be her own, and definitely not belonging to the man inside, and a sharp unease cuts through her as she kneels to examine them, realizing they appeared sometime during the night, suggesting someone had been watching or searching, perhaps even standing mere steps from the door. As she tended to the stranger, whose presence now feels like the spark of a fire that will soon blaze out of control, she returns inside, locking the door with trembling hands, and she glances toward the storage room where the man lies unconscious, unaware that danger may already be circling them. And Hannah debates calling the police, but she remembers the bruises and the name he whispered, and the fear etched into his strained breathing, and she senses that involving authorities may only invite more shadows into her life, shadows that could swallow her entire world. And she wonders what truth he carries, and why the night before felt so heavy with tension, as though the city itself was waiting for something to happen, something that may already be unfolding. As she prepares a bowl of soup for when he wakes, she keeps glancing at the entrance, expecting it to swing open without warning, and every sound makes her jump: the hum of the refrigerator, the whir of the heater, the distant echo of traffic. And she tries to convince herself she is only tired in imagining danger where none exists, but she remembers the footprints outside and the name that fell from his lips like a final plea, and she knows the danger is real even if she cannot yet see its shape, and she braces herself for what might come next, despite having no understanding of the forces she may have angered. Merely by offering kindness when the stranger finally wakens fully, he sits up with a groan, holding his side, and staring at her with eyes clouded not only by pain but by caution, as though he cannot be sure whether she is friend or foe, and Hannah feels the air shift around them as he studies her face, trying to decide how much he can trust her, and she waits in silence, giving him space, knowing his next words may reveal more than she expects, and when he opens his mouth to speak, his voice carries the weight of secrets buried under layers of guilt and fear. But before he can finish, a loud thud echoes from outside the restaurant walls, cutting off his words and sending a cold wave of dread through both of them as they realize the world beyond the door may already be closing in on them, leaving only seconds before everything changes. The thud outside grows louder, and the stranger spins, his gaze fixed on the door, as though he already knows who waits on the other side, and Hannah feels her breath catch as she moves closer to him, unsure whether to help him stand or to hide him again, and the silence that follows feels heavier than the walls around them, as though the entire building is bracing for something dark to enter, and the stranger finally whispers that the men hunting him never announce themselves unless they are certain they have cornered their prey, leaving her to grapple with the terror that she may already be a part of a conflict she never asked for. Before she can respond, the doorknob rattles, a slow, deliberate shake that sends a cold spike through her spine, and the stranger reaches for her arm, pulling her back, urging her to keep quiet while footsteps move across the entrance like a warning, and Hannah feels the weight of her decision settling on her shoulders. The decision she made when she dragged him out of the snow, a decision that now binds their fates together in a way she cannot undo, and she wonders if bravery is something she truly possesses, or if she has merely stumbled into danger fueled by instinct rather than courage. Yet, there is no time to question herself further as the door slowly begins to open. Several men step inside, dressed in dark coats that blend with the cold morning light, and they fan out with the precision of people accustomed to violence, their eyes studying every corner of the restaurant as if searching for a shadow that breathes, and Hannah watches them with a trembling calm, forcing herself not to reveal the panic clawing at her chest, while the stranger steps forward, despite his injuries, determined to keep her out of their line of fire, even though she can see how much each movement costs him, and she wonders how someone so wounded can still carry himself with the burden of resolve. The leader steps in last, a tall man whose presence seems to absorb the remaining warmth from the room as he surveys the space with quiet authority, and his gaze settles on Hannah for a moment too long, as if he is trying to read the truth behind her eyes, and she holds her breath, unsure if he can hear the frantic beating of her heart, and the stranger subtly moves between them, though he is barely standing steady, and the leader smirks faintly, as if recognizing both the defiance and the weakness, and he speaks Hannah's name with a softness that feels more threatening than a shout, leaving her wondering how he knows who she is. He tells her that they have tracked the man she shelters for days through storms and cities and broken territory, and now he demands to know where she has hidden him, and Hannah feels the room shrinking around her as every exit seems to vanish in the cold air, and she thinks of the footprints in the snow, the shadow outside, the night she found him, the warnings he whispered between trembling breaths, and she realizes these men have been closing in long before she understood the danger. That stranger straightens, though pain twists across his face, and he tells the leader that Hannah is not part of this, that she knows nothing and should be allowed to walk away, but the leader only laughs quietly, as if amused by the idea that anyone can remain innocent in a world shaped